Welcome to Meet Your Neighbor, the podcast that highlights the people and stories that make Westbrook Village a truly exceptional community. I'm your host, Steve Marilla, local realtor, neighbor, and proud member of this vibrant community. Each episode, we sit down with residents to learn about their careers, life experiences, and what brought them to Westbrook Village. It's a chance to connect, share, and celebrate the unique journeys that shape our neighborhood. Thanks for tuning in. Now let's meet your neighbor. This week, we meet Donna Davis, who met her husband Jerry at a dance when she was just 15 years old. And that was only the beginning of a life filled with purpose, perseverance, and a whole lot of love. From working as a nurse at a hospital where the Bears would roll through to launching her own clinical trials company. Donna's journey is one of balancing family, career, and passion every step of the way. Now happily settled in Westbrook Village, Donna reflects on the twists and turns of her life and how she built a life filled with meaning, service, and community. Now let's meet your neighbor. Hello, Donna.
Good morning.
Good morning. You're so professional. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you doing this podcast because I think your story is fascinating. I mean, I love hearing where people came from and how they got to our little neighborhood. So let's talk, because you're married to Jerry Davis, same last name, Donna Davis. So how'd you two meet?
Jerry Davis. Well, we're from Chicago, Northwest Side, and back in the day, they had teenage dance halls for high schoolers.
Yep.
And Jerry and I met at one of those when I was 15 and he was 17.
Okay.
So he had just graduated from an all-boys Catholic high school, and I was at the crazy public high school, going to be a junior, and he was going to be heading off to college. And
Okay.
that's when we met.
Really? So what, well, one, you met at a dance. Did he have good moves? Do you remember?
Yeah, he's got
Must have.
those,
He's got you.
I don't know what to call his moves.
Like the old Elvis Presley wiggly legs?
Yeah, dancing was fun.
Okay.
Black lights, so you didn't really, you were in the dark kind of, but it was
Sure.
It was super fun.
So so he went out to college, and you guys kept the relationship going, obviously.
Yeah.
Through your senior year?
Yeah, we got engaged when I was a senior.
Okay.
He went to 1 year of college and decided to join the Air Force.
Oh.
So we got engaged. He joined the Air Force. I graduated early from high school.
Nice, because you're smart.
He got orders to go to Germany, so we decided that our two little hippie people that we were, little, free spirits.
Sure.
We were going to get married and go to Germany. We were very excited. So we got married, and like a month later, they changed him to Texas.
Oh, that's a
So-
buzzkill.
That's what we ended up doing, but
So you went to Texas. So you traveled with him to Texas?
yeah.
And then what did you do from there?
So in Texas, we were there a couple years. We had our first baby there in San Antonio, and then got back to Illinois at one of the bases there, and he was always in college wherever we moved.
Okay.
And then he really wanted to get out. So we made our list. Here's what we need to get out. Donna, you need to find a job where you don't need a car, and we can have a dog and have an apartment and, the whole list. I said, okay, I'm on it. I'm on it.
Sure. So is that how, I mean, it's funny. I hear this when I talk to people in these interviews. You really get an idea of how they approach life. So you made a list of, and he wanted to be out of the Air Force.
Yeah.
And here's what we can afford. Here's what we're going to do. And it's amazing how logical people were back then. That seems a little lost to our youth.
It really does.
Yeah.
We really did it together because he wanted to finish college.
Right.
So if we get out, someone needs to work. So it's
Sure.
not, yeah.
So what did
It
you?
was life.
So what was your? So you got the list.
I got the list.
So how'd you start knocking it off?
I went up to the hospital, which was next door to my high school. Made an appointment with, they used to call it back then personnel, not HR.
Sure.
Told them my story. I said, here I am, and this is really what I want to do.
Yeah.
But can you help me? I need a job. I need to find an apartment. It has to have animals. I need to be able to walk. I have all these requirements. They were like, hey, we're in.
Really?
So they gave me a job that day, and there were no cell phones. I couldn't even call Jerry and say, it's done.
Right. Hey,
I got you.
on my list. That's so awesome. I got you.
So he went to college. I worked. I walked to work. I dropped my son off at the little church daycare next to the hospital. And
Sure.
yeah, we had another baby there. And he finished up school for his bachelor's.
Yeah.
And then he started working and also going for his master's. But then
Okay.
I still worked until I went to nursing school.
Okay. So then you went to nursing school, and you have 2 children at home.
Yeah.
And
We didn't have babysitters. Back then we just worked opposite shifts.
Okay.
We couldn't afford any of that.
Right. Wow. You must feel so blessed today, looking back at how the tough beginnings of our lives. Back when you remember when money was not just easily gotten. Like now, you can go get a job on the internet. You can, there's so many different ways to make a living, and that's what I find fascinating about interviewing people is there's so many different careers that are living next door to us. So you go to nursing school because I'm told you're quite successful. I know you're a great nurse because the time I wiped out on my scooter and you picked all the rocks out of my elbow.
You did surprise me at my door.
Yeah, it was. I think I saw you in the yard, and I was like, "Were you?" And you know what? I did it to save my wife from seeing how bloody I was.
I totally get that. It was a great idea.
But then when I got home, and what does she say? I show her. I said I had an accident. She goes, "How's the scooter?" And I'm like, "Come on." But yeah, you were such a great nurse and so kind. I really appreciate it. But so tell me more. Let's go back to when you first started nursing. You're going to nursing school.
I started nursing school when my daughter started kindergarten, so we started on the same day.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm. We were both crying. We were so scared.
Well, you were so brave to go to the hospital and tell them your needs. I suppose because you have to do what you have to do, but then when it was time to go to school, you were pretty nervous, huh?
I was, but they gave me this job where I ended up working for a doctor that was an orthopedic doctor that I knew. He was on the orthopedic floor, so he was like, I'll take her, So
Sure.
I just felt like everything fell into place that could have to help us do what we were doing.
That's awesome. So I want to get into your career because you've told me stories about the Chicago Bears used to come into where you worked. What was your main nursing occupation?
When I started nursing, they were looking for a intern for nursing at the VA.
Okay.
And everyone told me not to do that. I said, yeah, well, I'm going to do that.
Okay, of course.
So I went to the VA and I did an internship there, and I worked in psych when I ended my internship, and I stayed there for 3 years working with the old veterans that were from like World War II, and their stories blew me away.
Sure.
I loved my days there. But then I was recruited by a hospital that was closer to me, and I lived in a pharmaceutical area.
Sure.
And so I was working in cardiac, and then the pharmaceutical industry was getting a lot of grief from the FDA.
Yeah.
They needed to add cardiac to their clinical trials, so they recruited me, asking me to incorporate cardiac work into clinical trials to make them safer.
Okay.
I said, well, all right. I never thought of that. I never even thought of a career like that.
Really?
But when I went over there and was working with the doctors there and cut my nursing job because I was afraid to not have my nursing career there.
Sure.
These people were making more money and working less hours than me, and I said to Jerry, this is crazy. My nursing friends all need to come over here.
Right.
We deserve this kind of lifestyle. It ended up like 3 of us went over there, and we started out working working with the doctors, where you would put in, say, like, what could a patient actually go through? What could you actually do to somebody and have them still be okay in a clinical trial and not do so much to them that it's putting them at risk or
Sure.
scaring them or not giving us the information we really need. So I did that for a few years. And then I wanted to tell you about the Bears working at the hospital. I stayed at that hospital for 7 years because we took care of the Chicago Bears.
Oh, really? That's what I find fascinating.
That was so fun.
I'm juvenile.
Oh, my gosh. I know my husband was jealous. I had that hospital took care of a lot of movie stars, and the Bears. The Bears workout area was there.
Really?
So we had a lot of fun, like when they would come in to have their babies or bring their families in, and it was entertaining to us. If they would play Green Bay,
Sure.
whoop, let's all go to the game. You know?
Were you a Bears fan?
Oh yeah, I was back then.
Yep. Was Jerry
We were Bears fans.
always
yeah.
Bears fans? Okay. I'm a
Yeah.
Packer fan, so that's too bad.
There we go. We could
Yeah.
duke it out at
Yeah.
one of the.
Oh, absolutely.
games.
So back then, the athletes were quite different. They show pictures of Super Bowl halftimes and they're having a beer and a cigarette.
Yeah,
So-
I had like Ron Rivera,
Oh, really?
the refrigerator Perry.
Really?
I'm old, so yeah, those
Yeah.
were the people that were playing when I was working with
The
them.
refrigerator Perry. What was he like?
Oh my gosh, like a big marshmallow guy,
Really?
just the sweetest guy. Loved everybody.
Really? I mean, you look at those guys like him, and I just imagine how huge their hands are, and they're just specimens of. Some of them are just giants.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely.
And
And
I'm-
they were nice.
Yeah.
They were really nice people. Of course, the coach, Mike Ditka, the coach, he came in when he had a cardiac arrest and came into our floor.
Oh,
And yeah, so we all got to know him quite a bit.
was he a pretty nice guy?
Yeah, he's a little rougher around the
Okay.
edges than some of the players.
All right. Well, that little pause. So
We ended up
he wasn't
being entertained by him.
Yeah, he wasn't a sweetheart. He was a
He
little
wanted
crabby.
everything right now. Give
Yeah.
me what I want.
Well, he's a coach.
He was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. That's awesome. Yeah, I think seeing professional athletes and movie stars in a different setting is kind of neat. Especially in your setting, they're vulnerable to you. I mean, you're kind of in charge.
I think I got to take care of Harrison Ford.
Really?
So that was a big highlight for me. He went to my high school, and when he came in, I said, you know what? He has to stay for 23-hour observation. I'm on it. I got him. Don't argue with me.
Did he really need to stay, or was that just a down?
Yeah, he was filming The Fugitive
Oh, really?
in the city, and had a little knee issue. So
Okay.
he came to our hospital, and they needed to observe him for 23 hours. I said, yeah, I'm on it.
You're on
honestly.
it. Was I think in that movie, didn't he have a limp from a fall?
Well, he did fall on those stairs. Yeah,
Okay.
he hurt himself, that's for
So,
sure.
he did hurt
Yeah,
himself
he
when he
did.
was filming that. Oh,
But
okay.
he finished it up. But he's a little guy.
Yeah, it's funny
He
how
was so
how
cute.
many of those guys are shorter in stature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. And I had another athlete, which probably was my son's favorite. I had Kirby Puckett's mother.
Oh, really?
So Kirby came in, and he gave my son some things
Okay.
that and I didn't really know anything about baseball. So when I was taking care of his mother and he would come in, I never knew that he was like a famous baseball player. He never
Sure.
put on any airs. He came every day to see his mother.
Really? That's a
He
good
was
son.
a very, very sweet. His mother ended up passing away there, but he brought me. He said, "Do you know anything about baseball?" And I said, "No, I really don't. I'm not a baseball girl." He
Huh.
said, "I said my son plays though. Ask your son if he knows Kirby Puckett." So my son was like, "What?" And then Kirby gave me baseballs and signed baseballs and baseball cards and all kinds of stuff for
Really?
my son, and he was.
Trying
he
to
was
make sure his mom had extra good coverage.
Oh, his mother was very sweet, and Kirby was a great son, just
Huh.
a wonderful person.
Yeah, he played for the Twins, so
Yeah.
I don't follow baseball, but I know Kirby Puckett. Yep.
Yeah, he lived in Chicago. That's where he grew up.
How tall was he?
He was little, too.
Yeah, he could. I remember, he was shorter and wider, and he
Yeah,
could
and his
jump
mother
like
called
a
him
maniac.
Bubble Butt.
Bubble butt. Yeah, he was a
Yeah,
bubble
that's
butt.
what she
Yeah,
called
yeah,
him.
yeah.
It was so cute.
Oh, that's amazing. So, so where'd you go from there? Is that how many years were you? I mean, it sounds like we were accelerating from this nursing job or hospital job to nursing job to.
Yeah, when I
It
went
sounds
to,
simple now, but I have to imagine it was pretty stressful making those changes.
Oh, it was. And going into research, I worked in corporate for 2 years doing what I did with the trials. And
Okay.
then my daughter ended up going to college. So both my kids then were in college. When she left, because she was the younger one, I decided that I could work in the field and wanted to work running clinical trials
Okay. Oh, wow.
out in the country, like
Oh.
wherever I could find doctors to work with. And
Sure.
it was a goal of mine.
Okay.
And my mentor was a wonderful doctor from Belgium that said, well, we will prepare you for this and you will be ready. So the time I was working in-house, I was also training to try to run trials. So he helped me do that. And that's what I did then. I had my own company that they ended up hiring at this pharmaceutical company. They hired my little company, which was only me.
Sure.
And I did that for 17 years, ran trials for them.
Wow, that had to be a leap.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't sound, I don't think a lot of women were doing that at that time, probably.
Probably not. But, and a lot of younger people than me. I was probably older than a lot of them because you didn't have to be a nurse. You just needed to, like there were data analyst people.
Yep.
I'm saying it wrong.
No, you got it.
Those people liked to do it because they liked to collect the data and understand where the data was coming from. You had multiple people working on trials that all had different backgrounds, which
Sure.
is what I think makes them work, is that you don't need to be a certain profession to do it. You just need to want to actually work with to make the FDA. I know it sounds funny. People these days do not have a really good view of the FDA.
Sure. But they're there for a reason.
They're there for a reason, and
you
we
know.
do have protocols, and we do actually collect a lot of data, and there's a lot of trials that they do, trying so hard. I mean, you would take your hats off to these people that were in the trial, that were working on the trial, the patients that were doing the trial.
Yeah, so the patients that are doing the trial, is it kind of like, because you're creating new drugs or new procedures,
Right.
and to solve a problem, and the people in the clinical trials are the people with the problem so severe that they'll try anything, right? Is that kind of
Yeah, well, you have people that are new to it too, like in the early trials.
sure?
They're not the real sick ones. The
Oh,
real
okay.
sick ones are when there is nothing left for them, and maybe you're doing hospice and
Okay,
they're telling you could try this trial because the information gathered from what you would allow people to gather is going to help people
in the future.
in the future. And
Okay.
thank you for doing it for these people.
Was that a little bit?
Yeah, I did hospice
Heartaches?
for a while. I was a home hospice nurse for a while, and
Were
then
you?
I did some cardiac work on trials that were actually for cancer drugs. So
Okay,
those patients, yeah.
yeah, that was it. Pretty tough on you. Did you go home, or were you able to just leave it when you left to go home?
I loved my people. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was so proud of them and proud of the doctors, that the scientists that even can come up with what they need to come up with to try to find some help
Right.
is amazing.
Yeah, I have to.
And all of the drugs don't go through and get approved. So you can imagine how many millions and millions of dollars is spent on trials that never make it.
Sure.
So the companies still have to do all of that. Although scientists they have 17 years from it goes into a patient.
Yeah.
You have 17 years until your drug can go to be a generic, and you're not getting really any money for it anymore.
Sure. So you have 17 years to
do
develop the
everything.
drug, get approved, and make the money
Mhm.
before it goes down to a
Goes to
generic drug.
and somebody else.
And somebody else
yeah.
can. So you do all that work. And
So those companies work their ass off as fast as they can. They have so many trials they have to do to prove whatever they need to prove. And if at some point it doesn't prove, it's just
it's just
gone.
money gone.
Yeah.
So how is there a ratio that how many drug tests are successful? Is it a small
There's
percentage?
many, many more that are not successful
Sure.
than that are.
Yeah. So they're spending
Yeah.
millions and millions of dollars on this drug over here that didn't work.
Yeah.
Well, the one that did work, they've got to make their money back
Right.
because they're running a
In
business.
that small window, make what
Yeah.
you can, because you're also still researching all these other drugs that.
Sure, and trying to help people, and trying to fight the stereotype of the corporate greed of the
Mhm.
pharmaceutical
And they want to do
companies.
compassionate use for people, like say something worked for you, but now your trials are over and now it gets submitted to the FDA, so they're not selling it yet. It takes a while for the FDA to approve it, so you have that time period. Some
Huh.
companies want to do compassionate use for those people that had success, and they want to give them the drug.
Can they, or legally, or
Yeah,
no?
they do have a way to do it for.
Okay, there's an
some
exception.
people.
So do you have a different view than than the normal. I mean, I think, when you look at drug companies, and we only hear, they're, overcharging for drugs and everything else that we hear. You seem to have a more compassionate outlook on the pharmaceutical business.
Yeah, I think a lot of different jobs are like that.
Yeah.
You don't really know the background, but people just make, they think something of it, but they don't really know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into something.
I'm sure you don't lead with, I worked for big pharma, because that would just be a negative.
Yeah, people are like, oh.
That's not, saying that, even though it's true, but you don't say it as a point of pride that, because people have a preconceived notion of what that is.
These scientists are from all over the world.
Yeah.
They're amazing. There's a small group of doctors that maybe are in it for the money, and it's very, very few, and you can tell them right away.
Sure.
The majority of them are in it for the compassion of the people, that they like the science, they want to help you. They're not going through all that schooling thinking, oh, I'll become a millionaire on this. They're
Right.
thinking, how can I help this population? And then there's a few of them that just really want to be in it and have their name first on an article or have,
Right.
the prestige. But
Huh.
the majority of them are in it for their heart. It's a good group.
Do you think there will ever be a cure for cancer? Do you think?
I don't know. I feel like it changes faster than they can make changes. So it's really hard to say.
So you think the cancer itself is evolving?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
Right.
atoms splitting kind of situation.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think finding a cure, maybe they can find something to hold it off, but finding a cure, I don't know that they've come real close to it. I really pray for them to find cures for things that happen in the brain.
Sure.
With MS and ALS. I think they're getting closer to that kind of thing.
Oh, you think so?
I think those kind of diseases are, well, they're hard to track, but they're maybe a little easier to track than cancer. Cancer is very random, and you don't know you have it until you're far enough along where too many things have happened. So,
Right. Yeah. I know that treatment for men has changed, checking for prostate cancer and things like that. That they eliminate procedures to make sure you come in, and they say you'll know if you have issues down there because you're going to have the symptoms. But it seemed like years ago it was really heavy on finding things really early. But when I go and get a physical, they don't even touch you anymore for a yearly physical.
Well, yeah. Our whole medical system is changing.
Yeah.
But the clinical trials for drug development, I think, will always be there. And those scientist people, they're amazing.
Yeah.
My hat's off to all of them.
Yeah. We see it in our neighborhood. You see the mind on some of these guys that were bright 2, 3 years ago.
That's what I pray for, that they find those cures.
Because it's sad. Of course, I can't keep track of a pickleball score to save my life. So, so how'd you get from Chicago to Arizona? What made you want to move here?
Our daughter and her family, and my son and his family, all ended up in the Carolinas. So we built we called it our office in the South. We had 2 houses. So we were Chicago and Carolinas.
Yeah.
And then my son and family got transferred to Scottsdale, and my daughter and family to the Big Island of Hawaii. So we're like, well, we're not going to stay out there. So for 10 years it was like kumbaya. Everybody was together. I was going back and forth every month from Carolinas to Chicago, and then the shit hit the fan and everybody was moving. So we were not going to go to the Big Island.
Yeah.
So we were going to come to Scottsdale, which we couldn't find anything. And then a friend of mine from Memphis said, well, you need to go look at Peoria. And I said, I've never even heard of it. They never told
Nobody
me
knows
anything
where Peoria
about
is.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we came back out and took the 101 and got off at Union Hills and pulled right into Westbrook Village not knowing anything.
Yeah. What was your first impression?
I was like, well, this is cute. This is pretty. This is, what is this? Let's see what's going on. So we went in the clubhouse and they said, well, we could get you a realtor to take you around. We're like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that day we decided, we could live here. And
Really?
it's not too far from Scottsdale, and we're coming out here somewhere.
Right.
This looks great.
And that was it. I like, if someone's coming to visit, I'm new to the Westbrook neighborhood, but when someone's coming to visit, I remember I was driving in off Union, coming in, and I'm like, for someone coming from Minnesota, where it's snowy and icy right now, and you see the ninth green and the 18th fairway, and just how green and lush it is on that when you first come in, I think it's beautiful.
It's
really
beautiful.
have a lot of pride living in this neighborhood. I mean, I always jokingly say my wife hates it when I call it the poor man's Scottsdale, but it's affordable. I mean, it used to be more affordable, in a short time ago, but it is just. Nobody likes the HOA, but I love the HOA because all our values are staying up. Our community just looks nice, especially
awesome.
compared to when you're there at Sun City, and it's just a hodgepodge of every different design.
It's not
home.
as pretty.
No, it's not as pretty. So yeah, I really love the neighborhood. What do you like most about Westbrook, besides me?
Yeah, I just love you. And how about my history with your wife? That just totally blew me away.
Yeah. So tell me the history, because I kind of know it, but our listeners don't.
Of course, every day is a party.
Yep.
So we were at a party, and that's where I met you and your wife.
Yep.
Kirsten. Beautiful. So she asked me where I lived, and I was trying to explain, because the houses all look the same. And
right.
I'm like, well, it's whatever house. And she started crying.
Really?
And I said,
Maybe
I'm so sorry. What's happening? What's happening? And she said, that is the house where my parents' best friends lived, and I stayed there in the summers on vacation.
Yeah.
I said, oh my gosh. So my history with her living in that house. I said, well, you have to come over and see where, of course, everybody guts their house and remodels it. And
yep.
so she came over, and it was so fun. It was fun to hear wonderful stories about that house, because we didn't know anything about it. The people were gone.
Yeah.
The house was empty for like a year. It was just a mess. And then she made it all happy.
Yeah. I looked up your house the other day because they wanted to see how long they owned it for. And yeah, you're the second owners.
Yeah, these people had it built. So
yeah, it was, and you've done such beautiful things to it.
Well, I was afraid to gut it, but oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we did it. And we love the people here, and we love the neighborhood. It's like we ended up in this little heaven on earth, because we're not going anywhere. We found our place to stay.
Yeah. I love it. I don't know if it's forever, but the more you get attached to people there, the harder it is going to ever leave. And there is, we are getting influx of a lot of younger people in.
Like you?
Like me,
like
yeah.
You.
Yeah, a lot of 50s.
My daughter is moving out here.
Is she?
They're moving to Prescott Valley now. Now we're going to have people out here. My son went to Colorado, and all of his family is out there.
Oh, so after they went to Scottsdale, and they went to Colorado.
Well, I know my grandkids are also old now. They're all done with college. So they went out there, and the kids all did college and everything. So they're all done.
Okay.
And my son loves Colorado, so he's staying there.
Yeah.
And my daughter was in the Carolinas. Now she'll be an empty nester this year.
Oh, wow.
And they are building a house in Prescott Valley to come this way. So they're going to be in new stages of their lives.
Yep. And, you're 12 hours away from Denver, and then you can stop at the other kids on the trip up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Well, I appreciate you coming in and doing this interview, and I can't wait for people to hear your story. And, thank you very much.
Thank you for asking me to do it.
I think it's fascinating to see how people get here and how they start.
I want to hear everybody's stories.
I do too.
Even more about yours.
Yeah.
Are you putting your story on? Because that would be really great.
I can't interview myself, so I probably cannot. So I'll have to have a guest interview. But I'm sure my story will come out little by little as I have my friends in. So I really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to the Meet Your Neighbor podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And feel free to share this podcast with friends and fellow neighbors. Until next time, take care and keep connecting.